Welcome to follow the online concert of Turku Philharmonic Orchestra. This week we are talking about Beethoven with our principal guest conductor Julian Rachlin. Welcome.
Thank you. So nice to be back.
So nice to have you here. First of all, how are you?
I'm good. I'm surprised that there is no snow in Turku. So it's pretty warm. And otherwise, I'm very well. I've been quite busy going around the globe with wonderful projects on the viola, on the violin, with chamber music, with solo violin concertos, solo viola concertos, teaching and conducting. Mostly conducting, actually. It's now 60% conducting, 40% playing. So it's very, very exciting, and it always feels like coming back to my Turku family. It's a very special feeling when you have a relationship to an orchestra or with an orchestra for already quite a few years now, and it makes a big difference in the rehearsals, in the preparation to the concert. It's always nice because we already understand each other much better than in the beginning.
Yeah, so you have a busy plate. How did you start to rehearse this program, first without the orchestra and now with the orchestra?
Well, without orchestra, of course, the preparation for a conductor, it's always without orchestra, but the instrument is the orchestra for a conductor. So, of course, it's you learn a lot from each orchestra because each orchestra has its specific sound, its certain traditions, its certain style to play, especially such well-known pieces like this week's program. And on the other hand, it's always an exciting process because, of course, when I study the works, I also go way back into the history, try to read as much as possible, to see what Beethoven wanted, what was his ideas, his comments, his humor, his emotions, and also his strong wishes. And then you have to somehow take all of this information, what is also in the score, what is in the letters, what is whatever we can access, and you have to have your own concept in a way, to find your own truth, which always changes over the years. And we always try to do the best to satisfy the composer, but I think it's important to also not be scared to have your own sort of view on the piece, your own what we call interpretation. And this is what we are trying to find and to search together. And it was a wonderful week with the orchestra.
And this week it's all about Beethoven, and we are celebrating his anniversary. Why do you think that Beethoven is still such a big name in the classical music genre?
Because when he was writing at his time, he said himself, because he was criticized a lot for many of his works. And at some point, I remember reading that Beethoven said something like, my music is, I'm composing not for today. It's not to be understood today. So this is why we are still playing and loving his work, because it was written, of course, also for his time, but it was also written for our time, and I think it was written for all times. It's revolutionary, it is classical, it is romantic, it is modern, it has all the styles that you can imagine, and the language that he uses is complete. It is so incredibly, it's not even perfect. It's every note, because he was not a composer of melodies like Schubert or like, you know, many other composers where you can sing all the melodies. Beethoven was a composer, a motivic composer. It was motive after motive after motive. But all of them together, there is not one note that is not completely perfect. So everything makes sense, like with no other composer. There is just note by note as if it just came from the heavens to him. But it didn't come easily to him. He was struggling and he was tearing the pages apart and correcting and recorrecting, and he was never happy. So it did not come easy to him like it came to Mozart, who never had to, it just came. He just needed to write it down quickly. Beethoven was struggling, but still every note, every phrase, every line, every movement, every symphony, every concerto, whatever piece is just complete. And we try to do our best to let this great genius, to give him justice, and it is our duty, all of us musicians, to continue this incredible legacy and to serve to this great composer.
You know Beethoven very well, it seems. What is your earliest memory of Beethoven's music?
That's a good question. I cannot tell you because I started being mesmerized and in love with music from age 2. I was completely, I don't know how and why. I mean, my parents are both musicians, so music was always around the house, our home. But I would not be able to tell you the very first piece that I heard, because there was so much at home playing that for sure there was also Beethoven, and with 2 or 2.5, you don't remember things at this age. But of course, I remember my first steps with the early violin sonatas. For example, the violin concerto I started learning rather late, because all the violinists are very scared of the violin concerto because it's the king of all violin concertos, maybe. I mean, one can argue if it is Brahms or Beethoven, but probably it is Beethoven, because his concerto, it's so difficult. It's just scales and arpeggios, and you cannot hide anywhere. You are so exposed, and we are very nervous every time to play the Beethoven violin concerto. So I was only 25 years old when I first played it, and so I took my time, but I was doing a lot of chamber music. His string quartets, his string trios, piano trios, string quintets, his septet, I love so much. So yeah, and then slowly getting all the 10 Beethoven sonatas, bit by bit, but it was many years. And only, I think in 2006, I started, well, maybe a little bit earlier, but around the time I started playing all the 10 violin sonatas. Yes, and then now it's the symphonies. I'm doing a lot of the Beethoven symphonies, and of course the piano concerti, a lot, the third, the fourth, the fifth. Still need to learn the first, the second, and the choral fantasy. And yeah, so much, yeah, still to discover.
Yeah, the program is so vast. As a musician, do you think you have something in common with Beethoven?
Oh my God, I would never compare myself to such a giant. So we are really just little ants, and together we are strong. So similar can only be the ultimate passion for music and the constant search. And never to be, it sounds negative to say never to be happy, because one has to be also happy. One has to find the moments to say, this was nice, or this felt nice. But that doesn't mean that one is happy with everything. There is never the moment where you say, I reached the heavens. But we are trying to get as close as possible. And this trying is what drives all of us musicians all of our life. And I think maybe this is the only comparison, the incredible love and passion for music in general, and in Beethoven's words, for humanity. He was a person of humanity. He was very political, and it affected him a lot. And you can hear it very much in the music. Everything what was written around the time of Napoleon, around this time, it was affecting him. First, he was very much admiring the ideas of Napoleon, and he was thinking he is going to bring justice and freedom to all the people, and then he changed his opinion when he started realizing that he was obsessed with power, and it was not for the well-being of the world. So anyways, all of these elements come together in Beethoven's music, but I would never dare to compare myself.
Okay. Beethoven also loved nature very much. What is your relationship with nature?
I love the nature very much. To discover, I live in Austria, and of course we are surrounded. Some of the greatest music ever written was inspired by Austria, by the landscape, by the Austrian landscape, the Alps, the mountains, but also the lakes. And it's a very special and beautiful country. And but the Finnish nature, it's also incredible. And I think every country has its beautiful nature, and to come out of the city. I always lived in the city, and of course my work is mainly in cities. So of course it's always wonderful to have the possibility to get outside of the city, into the nature, have a little bit of silence, or different music, the music of the birds and the trees, and the various animals that are in the nature. And of course, this week's program is all about nature, especially the symphony. The Pastorale is a unique piece that is different from all the other symphonies of Beethoven.
And then as a final question, if you would have to describe Beethoven's music with one word, what would it be?
Just one word you give me? Can you give me two?
Okay, 2 words.
Love, 3 words. Love, passion, and revolution.
Great, thank you.